2 o'clock hour, or 3 o'clock, call this meeting to order. The first issue that we need to take care of is the chair and the vice chair are not able to be at today's meeting for finance. So need to have a motion and a second to appoint me as temporary chair. Moved by Member Rosenbaum, second by Member Blair. And if you should be able to do it on your iPad. So if you hit the microphone.
Correct.
You should be able to vote for a temporary chairperson.
But I can't vote, right?
Huh?
Not yet, Linda. That's correct.
Okay.
It should say for motion 1-1 for approval, a temporary chair.
It does, but I think Scott said I can't vote.
So you need to, Paul moved, so hit the refresh button, Paul. And then you should hit the move button, and then Member Blair should hit the second button. So you moved, okay, and then you should be able to hit second. And then everybody should say for approval, a temporary chair. Please record your vote. And if it's the same as yesterday, we're not able to see the votes on the TV.
No, we got that fixed.
We got that fixed?
Yep. So as soon as everybody votes, Linda is not able to vote because you've not admitted her into the meeting yet.
Oh, yep.
Really, that's your next item. So once everybody else has voted,
Baby steps. All right, everybody voted?
it'll flash up on the screen once everybody has. There you go.
All ayes. Next, is this in the thing where we can move to, next, we need to move to allow Member Daly to participate via phone. Is there a motion? Member Duncan, Member Renault. Oh, look at this. It's right up in approval of teleconference. So did you guys both hit your buttons for move and second? All right, please vote to allow Member Daly. Coach, I'm proud of you. All right, so there's still somebody out there needing to vote. There we go. All ayes. Next, we have the approval of the minutes for December 3rd, 2024. Is there a motion to accept those minutes? Member Rosenbaum, seconded by Member Salzer. Okay, it should be open. So Member Rosenbaum moved and Member Salzer hit the second. 2.1, December 3rd, 2024. Please vote. Linda should be voting, yes. All ayes. Next, we'll move to the informational items. Heather, the floor is yours. Or Julie.
Happy New Year. I'm Julie Custern, the Assistant CFO. In your packet, you have the monthly financial report for October. This is for period 10 of our fiscal year, and so we should be about 83.3% so far in revenues and expenses. For all the funds combined, for revenues, we are at 80.9% of the total budgeted amount, and for expenses, we are at 58.8% of the total spend. For all funds combined, we have a revised projected spend of about 24.5 million, and as of period 10, we have a surplus of 23.9. The majority of that is because we have a lot of capital projects that were planned for in ARPA and capital, which will be encumbered by the end of the year. For general fund, which is our main operating fund, we have 83.0% of revenues year to date as of October, and a total spend of 72.1% of expenditures year to date. The general fund, there's a revised spend of 3.7 million, and as of period 10, there's only 3.9 million of surplus. In the fiscal year 25 budget, we did project that FY24 was going to end about a $1.1 million surplus. We have a lot of transactions that will still be posted from now until the end of February, and then our financials are officially closed out at the end of June when we issue our financial report. So the current projection and the budget of 1 million, I would say, is a lot closer than where we have currently at that 3.9 million surplus in period 10. So I just want to highlight that to not have false hope and to rely more on the FY25 projected as in the FY25 budget. One highlight to bring to your attention is the intergovernmental revenue. We have a PPRT expense, as we have reported before. This has been lower in 24 based off of an error at the state and redacting some of the receipts that they had already given us. In FY24, we received 7.7 million, all funds combined, which is about 1.4 million or 15.4% below what was budgeted. In January, we did receive that first distribution, and that was lower based off of what we would have expected in our projections, and we will continue to keep an eye on that as we go through FY25. One more highlight I wanted to bring out, and it should have been put in your packet, but the fund for the planning and zoning grant fund, there was revenues that should be recorded, and so that fund shows a negative fund balance, but that is only temporary because there will be offsetting revenues, and that fund should have a zero balance. Outside of that, all the other highlights, big picture, are in the packet, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks, Julie. Questions? Seeing none, next we'll move to the Long-Term Care Service Fund report.
Hello. As of the end of October, the fund balance in the Long-Term Care Services Fund was just under $3.3 million. Everything is going according to plan. If you have any questions, let me know.
Questions? Easy enough. Next, move to the November 2024 accounts payable review.
There were quite a few transactions, as always, in November, and they're detailed out in your packet. If you have specific questions, I'm happy to try to answer those for you.
Questions? Seeing none, update on capital project funding sources.
Yes, that is also in your packet, and we are getting very close to closing everything out with the HHS building, so that'll be a fun, exciting time to have that project wrapped up. If you have any specific questions on any other transactions, I'm happy to answer those.
And I think everybody had seen the email response that Heather and team and Scott got everything properly allocated there at the end of the year for ARPA dollars.
Yes.
Any questions on those reports? If not, we'll move into resolutions. For the first resolution is fiscal year 2026 federal legislative agenda. Is there a motion to put this on the floor? Member Allison, Member Duncan. Administrator Sorrell.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if board members recall, in almost a year ago, you awarded a contract to Cozen O'Connor Public Strategies for federal lobbying services. One of the scope of work items in their contract is to work with us to develop a federal legislative agenda. They were here in person this fall to conduct interviews and have meetings with all of you that were able to attend, the countywide elected officials and the appointed officials as well. Their recommendation is that that legislative agenda have two components to it. The first are community funding project requests, or commonly known as earmarks. These projects are specific asks that we make our federal legislators as part of the annual appropriations process in Washington, D.C. Historically, we as an organization, even before we had a lobbyist, would ask for earmarks when we were able to. And we've always taken the approach that we should limit the number and that we'd be very intentional in what those asks are. When Cozen was here in the fall, we also learned a couple of other nuances, like we want to try and focus on not overloading a single congressional district, since the county is represented by multiple congressional districts. In that when we ask for an earmark, it should be somewhere between $500,000 and $4 million. If you get below $500,000, the legislators just are not going to fund it because it's too small. And they generally don't fund too many projects that are greater than $4 million. There are some exceptions, though, but that's the general rule of thumb. The other bucket deals with authorizing legislation and rulemaking. This is something that we really have not done in the past, but as the discussions during those meetings in the fall bore out, there actually were several policy-related initiatives that we might want to be engaged in. And that engagement is going to vary depending on what the issue might be. It could be as simple as writing a letter to our congressional delegation. It might be lobbying that Cozen does on our behalf, or if it's really important and the opportunity presents itself, working with our congressional delegation to see if there's an opportunity to offer testimony at a congressional hearing. So with all that as a setup, we looked at everything that was communicated and shared and the ideas that were brought up by everyone in those meetings in the fall. And within the two larger categories, we've prepared for you a recommendation. And so let's look at community funding projects first. Within that, there's three subcategories. Projects that we're recommending, projects that that were brought up, but we wanted to put into the documentation so that if the committee and the board wanted to go in a different direction from what staff is recommending, you at least know what the other options were from those meetings. And then we also identified some projects that really are more appropriate for a state legislative or budgetary issue, and that's largely going to be based on either the type of project or the value of the project. So the three projects that we're recommending for earmark requests when that process opens here in the next month or so. First is Phase 3 of the Radnor Road Street Corridor Plan. That's from Congressman LaHood. If you remember, Phase 1, we were awarded an earmark. Those dollars are sitting with IDOT presently. We are going through that process to get access to those dollars. Phase 2 is an earmark request that Congressman LaHood sponsored for us. It is still in the current continuing resolution for the federal fiscal year that started back in October, and we'll see if it survives or not, but we're thinking that it will. Phase 3 is going to be to finish up the design engineering and look at the first phase of construction. The first phase of construction would be from the intersection at Willow Knolls at the south end up to roughly the railroad tracks, just north of the Golf Learning Center on Redner Road. Cameron Lane Street Corridor Plan Phase 1, this is in Congressman Sorensen's district. This is to do initial design engineering for the entire corridor. Which is, it's a major grain hauling county highway that we have in the rural portions of the county, the western portion of the county, or I should say the west central portion of the county, going down to Route 24 down in the Mapleton area. So critical north-south highway for agriculture. And then the third one that we're recommending is brownfield remediation for Hannah City Work Camp. The work camp is in Congressman Sorensen's district, so it would be a request to him. That's a project that has a readily identified funding bucket in the program in the federal budget. So that's one of the reasons why we chose it. Ones that we did not recommend this time around would be the Glassford Road Street Corridor Plan Phase 1, which would be basically the Glassford Hill engineering, Galena Road Industrial Park, which would be infrastructure improvements. That's in Congressman LaHood's district. And then implementation of Phase 1 for the jail master plan. The jail sits in Congressman Sorensen's district. Two items that we really saw as more state issues, mostly based on funding levels, were a new animal intake area and HVAC improvements at PCAPS. The other primary category that we have is policy initiatives. We have several here that are recommended, and these again have varying levels of support. So the first is continued funding of the National Center for Agricultural Utilization and Research, which is our ag lab. It's the largest of the remaining USDA ag labs. This is something both Congressman LaHood and Sorensen and their predecessors have always partnered on. We just want to put on record that that's important to us and to the community and the local economy. As we talked about during the sessions this fall, the FCC has imposed new limitations on phone calls for detainees and prisoners at the jail. We want to see those loosened. Third, fund county governments directly. We've learned through ARPA that we are really good at managing federal dollars that are directly allocated to us versus having those federal dollars go through the state of Illinois, whether that be IDOT or any other state agency. And we are not alone in the state of Illinois with that sentiment. It's as a member of the board of directors for the National Association of Counties, it's something that the NACO board has talked about as well, and it is a NACO initiative. Third, Peoria Lock and Dam recognition. We still an important project on the Illinois River that is supported by both of our senators. The Defense Production Act for automation programs. So this deals with manufacturing programs. Next is the Reconnecting Communities program. After that, one of our large employers in the community, Liberty Steel, has had negative impacts on their business operations on the steel prices, international steel prices, and so looking at making sure that we have some support on whatever the solution might be to manage steel prices internationally. We actually were able to connect our team at Cozen with Liberty's contract lobbyists who knew each other, and there's active work going on there to try and solve that issue. We just want to be on record on being supportive of that. And then lastly is the Rural Energy for America program, or the REAP program, which is in the USDA budget. And that's here, we just want to be on record that making sure that that project is funded through the federal appropriations process. Two things we did not recommend this year is the reintroduction and passage of the Help Improve Recruitment and Retention Efforts for Prosecutors Act of 2024. This was an initiative that State's Attorney Hoos brought up during those meetings in the fall. That House resolution was filed but never got a committee hearing. So it was basically the federal equivalent of being in either state Senate assignments or state House rules committees. Since it didn't move, we chose to not put it on the recommended list. We'll have to wait and see if it gets reintroduced. And then one of the sessions we had talked about also this fall, reassessing food labeling. So those are two things not recommended. Four things that we identified during those meetings in the fall that are really more state issues dealt with public safety staffing, resident officers for the sheriff's office, funding for mental and behavioral health services in county jails, housing and other social determinants of health types of projects and funding that are routinely found in the state budget or state programs, and then various workforce development programs as well. So, Mr. Chairman, that's a pretty detailed summary of what came about of the meetings that we had in the fall when Cozen was here in town, and pulling that together, what we are recommending that we focus our efforts on this next year at the federal level.
Questions for Administrator Sorrell? Seeing none, I think we're a lot farther along this year than where we were last year at this point, having the federal lobbyists and team. To that note, I did ask, and I think everybody turned in, we will be sending out people to the Washington, D.C. NACO Ledge Conference, but we will also still be having a fly-in to talk to our legislators separately with Cozen during that time. So I think we have everybody set for the NACO Ledge Conference.
Yes, I believe we've got 4 board members that have expressed interest in going to D.C. for the legislative conference. Preliminary conversations with the Cozen team is maybe sometime potentially in May for the fly-in. We'll just need to see what the congressional schedule is. We want to make sure at minimum the House is in session, but ideally both chambers are in session.
So we'll again ask for those that would like to do maybe the fly-in later off in the year too. And then I just want to make note and correction, not correction, but so on the not recommended, the Glassford Road Street corridor, we did have in the budget, I believe, for some mill and overlay work to be taken care of coming up in this year's budget. So it's not like that is getting delayed or there's no action on that road.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. You did appropriate into the Highway Department budget money for a mill and overlay of the hill portion of Glassford Road. This project here would be the first phase of a multi-year, multi-million-dollar reconstruction of the Glassford Road hill.
Member Rosenbaum.
On the Glassford Hill, I just wanted to shout out a compliment to our county highway department that the repairs that they made this fall, I was getting compliments from the residents, not, a few of them actually as one of my relatives, but so relatives are usually a little more forthcoming with the complaints instead of the compliments, but they said they did a really nice job and it's a lot better than what it was. So just to let people know that we have done some to it to make it better than what it was, and if we can get it fixed as we go along, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rosenbaum. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please cast your vote. Motion carried, all ayes. Next is discussion. I don't think there was anything for discussion. Public comment? Seeing none, miscellaneous. With that, meeting adjourned, and we'll roll right into executive. 2 minutes. 2-minute break.